So the England team has been announced and the rumours are true. There was a lot of speculation this week whether it would be Smith, and it turns out to be true. Now, of course, Marcus Smith has moved to fullback and Finn Smith starts at 10. So firstly, I want to say congratulations to Finn Smith, who will be making his first debut in starting a game. I think he's on 7 caps now, so this will be his 8th and finally a start for him. So I'm sure he's very excited to get out there with his teammate Alex Mitchell, that of course he plays with week in, week out at Saints. So they've got a nice synergy. Now I want to delve into a little bit about Marcus before I come back to Finn Smith and Alex Mitchell. And I want to do a quick comparison. Of course, Intermac is out. You know, he got banned. And there was rumours, will Thomas Ramos move from fullback to 10? Because he's a fullback that can play 10. And will he cover that? France have announced their team, and absolutely not. Jalabert is in at 10. Ramos is an outstanding 15, so they're going to keep him at 15. Now, if we flip that to England, for instance, Marcus is arguably been one of the form players in the world for the last 12 months. And he's a 10, an out-and-out 10, that's talented enough to cover 15. But we're moving him from 10 to 15. So you can kind of see the difference in mindset between the French and the English. So Marcus has dropped out of 10 back to 15. Freddie Stewart goes out of the 23 completely. Bearing in mind, England have only had one out-and-out fullback in the entire squad. So you think of like Joe Carpenter up at Sale, who's been outstanding for the last couple of years. He would kind of make sense to have him in the squad. So Marcus goes there. And why would they do that? Why would they move Marcus to 15? Now, George Furbank has been playing a regular amount of times for England over this season. And there's certain games where George hasn't played, and they tend to be the games where teams kick contestable kicks. And that's when Freddie is selected for those. So Steve will have done all his research and seen France kick long and on. They kick the ball an absolute mile, and there's not contests the ball kick. So Marcus doesn't have to worry about that as much. So what it's going to give Marcus is the opportunity to counter-attack. So he'll field these balls, he can use his tactical kicking game, and he's not going to be under pressure with man and ball kicks that he has to take. And he can then distribute and play, make and plug the corners from further end, or return serve with a long kick is what potentially might happen. The other thing that England maybe lacked against Ireland, or have often, it's that key playmaking position of how do we get more playmakers at the moment on the field. So with having Finn Smith at 10 and Marcus Smith at fullback, you've now got 2 playmakers that can kind of bounce off each other. Very similar to when Marcus was at 10 and Furbank was at 15. And that balance, we seem to sort of move the ball a bit better. We seem to look a little bit more threatening, especially when we went multi-phase. It looked like something good was going to come out the back of it when we sort of use these 2 guys. Now, I suspect Marcus will be popping up in the wider channels, trying to get out the back of shape and do all that. And whether he naturally falls in that position, I'm not sure, because the tendency, if you're playing fly half your whole life, is to run sort of near the 10. So it's going to take a bit of adapting for him to do that. But the key thing for me is France kick long, so the aerial contest isn't there as such. Marcus can then counter-attack and do his thing. He can also return serve with a long kick himself, and the way that he tactically sees the game. And it's to get out the back of shape and be an extra distributor playmaker. And that is the reason. For me, I don't understand why you'd still move arguably your best player for the last 12 months out of his position to a fullback position. And if I look at Finn Smith, for instance, he's had, the last 12 months, he's had a number of chances to start a game. He could have started against Japan away in the summer. He didn't. He should have started against Japan in the autumn. He didn't. There was a perfect opportunity to get him out there and give him game time exposure. He came off the bench, yes, but he didn't start. He didn't have the reins from the start of the game. And you'd argue, how comes he's been given the reins now against France in Le Crunch in a Six Nations game than he wasn't against a Japan team that were very, very poor, to be honest with you, at the end of the autumn, was a perfect time to give him that exposure. What I would say about Finn Smith is, of course, his relationship with Alex Mitchell, which I touched on earlier briefly. But they won the Premiership last year together. For those that don't follow Premiership rugby, they played together week in, week out of Northampton. And having that understanding, that game knowledge of each other and how each other like to play is very, very important. So, yes, England don't play the same way as Northampton, but those guys know each other very, very well. So I am interested to see how both guys go. Will Finn Smith claim the shirt and make it his own? Will Marcus have a stormer? Is it all going to work? Let's hope so. Ollie Slightholme comes onto the wing for an injured Caden Murley. Really unfortunate to see him get injured and doesn't get an opportunity to have another crack at it, because he had his first game And I'm sure he was desperate to get out there again and kind of get another test under his belt and get more experience and be better again. So, but anyway, Slightholme comes in. He's got a very good try-scoring record. Of course, he'll know Finn Smith very well, as will Tommy Freeman. So there's a bit of a Saints theme in this back line that you think that those wingers might sniff around Finn Smith, Alex Mitchell, get off their wing looking for work. And again, because they know each other so well at club level, can they then influence it at an international level? Back three, as I mentioned with Marcus, as I've just mentioned with Ollie Slightholme, I've mentioned with Tommy Freeman. Again, that'll be the only thing, is working as that pendulum, working as those guys to cover the kicks. They haven't all played together, especially Marcus in that middle bit. So although Freemo and Ollie Slightholme will be comfortable with each other, it's that Marcus in that middle bit that's absolutely pivotal. And then we look forward literally into the forwards. Ben Earl goes from 8 to 7. Tom Curry moves from 7 to 6. And Willis goes to 8. So there's a bit of changing around to slot Tom Willis in there. It's interesting, isn't it? Because Tom Willis, again, comes in. I thought he looked good when he came on last week. He's been having a great season for Saracens, of course. He's another guy, again, I look at and I just think, why didn't they get him earlier? Why didn't they get him in during the autumn? But look, he's got his opportunity, which is great to see. Other than the back row and a little bit of a shift with Willis coming in and Ben Earl going to 7, the pack's the same. But what I would say is Ben Earl plays week in, week out at 7 for Saracens. And it's going to be nice to see him wear the 7 jersey at England. There's been a lot of workload for Benny Earl, having to do so much carrying, having to sort of get England over the gain line, whilst also tackling, jackling and doing all those bits. Are we going to see a slightly different game from Benny Earl because Tom Willis can share some of that load? Now, some of the problems that England have had maybe in the last 12 months is some of that dent and carry, that we're not blessed with all the biggest ball carriers. Tom Willis will give us that. Tom Willis is going to give us some dent. He's going to give us some carry, especially around the ruck. And that is going to be very, very important against a huge, heavy French pack. I thought Tom Curry was outstanding last week. So he's back in and the front row is the same. Now, replacements. So for a while, Steve has been saying about caps and experience and all this. Well, it doesn't get much better than seeing Jamie George back in there. So, of course, was captain prior to Maro taking over. I think he's got 90-odd caps. I think he might have 98, actually. So, huge amount of experience. And how good for Finn Baxter and Joe Hayes when they come on, that they are locked either side of one of the most experienced hookers that England have ever produced. So great to see him back involved. Obviously Theo Dan drops out, his club mate, but Jamie will bring a lot of experience onto that bench. And of course, one of England's Achilles heels is the last 20 minutes. So the former captain is going to be leashed with 20 minutes to go. Could he be the difference of how we win the game at the back end of these games? Chesham's on the bench. Chandler Cunningham himself's on the bench. Ben Curry drops from starting to on the bench. Harry Randall claims his place as the backup 9. 6-2 split again. That doesn't surprise me, given the size of the French, given the size of their pack. Like, it makes sense. They're gone for a 6-2. And then if we look, the last guy on the bench, Elliot Daly. Another guy, huge experience to come on. Now, people will be going, oh, why would you have Elliot Daly, for instance? Well, the beauty of Elliot is he can cover fullback, he can cover wing, he can cover centre. His versatility is fantastic, and therefore, rightly so, comes into that bench spot. Again, brings his experience, but he can cover so many positions, which is always the risk with a 6-2. You need someone that can come on and play Lowe's position. If you think about the Springboks back in the day with Frans Steyn, when they used to go to 6-2 and they first brought it out, that guy was probably the first guy to go on the bench for them because of his versatility. You don't need 10 cover because obviously we've got 2 out there straight away. So there we are. That's the makeup of the England team. 6-2 because to deal with the French power. The back row, Willis is in there. Great to see. He'll give us some carry, but he'll also give us a line-out option, which we didn't have last week. I think we saw a lot of last week's, a lot of 4-man line-outs, which we actually previewed and we spoke about it ahead of the game and we reviewed it. But now England actually have 3 jumpers, so the variation can be a little bit more there. So I suspect Willis will be probably in the line-out and guys like Benner will be out of the line-out, ready to carry and launch off those strikes. Let's see how the Saints halfbacks go at the international level together. And I suppose it is a bit of a gamble, if I'm honest. Will the gamble of putting Marcus Smith at fullback to bring more, I suppose, playmaking ability within that backline in the wider channels pay off? I really, really hope so. So there we have it, my quick snapshot of team announcement, which come every single week. So please subscribe, you'll be notified and you'll never miss a video like this. Leave a comment below. What do you think to the Smith-Smith combo? Are you happy? Are you not happy? Let me hear it, and I'll try and read as many as you can. Then tomorrow, myself and Anthony Watson are back on audio forms. Wherever you get your audios from, please have a listen as we do a preview for the entire Six Nations games this weekend. And there'll be a lot more in depth, a lot more detail about why certain personnel are playing, tactical as well. So please listen to that. Thanks so much for listening. Subscribe and see you all next week.